Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's council meeting. Just want to acknowledge Nicola and Terry from the Dannevirke Community Board who are attending, and Lorraine from Rangatane or Tamaki Nui Arua, who is also in the gallery, and welcome to staff. Before we start, could I please ask Councillor Pete Weber to open us with a karakia?
Morere everyone. Nā mai e runga, pau ko te pai. Nā mai e tānei, nā hau, nā ki te pota o te ao. Ko ranganui ki runga, ko papatū nuku ki raro. Ka pota ko te whao, ko te ao maunua. Tuturu, whakawhita, whakamoa, kia tina, haumie, huie, tai kie.
Thank you, Councillor. I have an apology from Councillor Corlett, and welcome to Councillor Tuaka, who is joining online. Could I get someone to please move Councillor Corlett's apology? Moved by Councillor Wallace, seconded by Councillor Naylor. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. I have not been notified of any public forum. So we move now to notification of items not on the agenda. Does any councillors have any notifications of items not on the agenda? I have one. The late item of business is the draft statement of expectations for Waiti Waters. The purpose of this paper is to seek feedback from Council on the draft statement of expectations from Waiti Waters in a public excluded session, and for the Mayor to take Waiti Waters take the feedback to the Waiti Waters Stakeholders Forum to be held on the 1st of May 2026. The reason this item was not included in the agenda for the meeting was due to the draft statement not being ready prior to this agenda being published. The consideration of the item cannot be delayed into a later meeting due to the need for timely consideration from Council prior to the Stakeholders Forum on the 1st of May 2026. So I would like to move that the item Statement of Expectations, Waiti Waters, be accepted as a late item of business. That's seconded by Councillor Johns. Is there any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. That will move to agenda item 14, so into public excluded. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest in relation to today's meeting? Appears to be none. As a reminder, councillors can raise any conflicts if they arrive during our discussion, and they will be noted. We now move on to confirmation of minutes, which is on page 5 of your agenda. This is for our March council meeting. Could I have someone move that these are received? Moved by Councillor Amboy, seconded by Councillor Pete Weber. Is there any discussion on these minutes? Appears to be none. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Move on to page 19, which is the minutes of the Dannevirke Community Board. Just to check if the Chair or Deputy Chair wants to make any comment or speak to these minutes before we... No. Could I please have someone move to receive? Councillor Amboy, seconded by Councillor Naylor. Is there any discussion on these minutes? Councillor Pete Weber.
Just a query if someone wants to answer this. What sort of flags are you guys looking at for the flag tracks next? Because I see you guys are looking at installing a new set.
Yeah, absolutely, Terry and Nicola. Welcome to the table.
Thank you. We're looking at a variety. We're actually seeking to have flags when we don't have any sponsored flags put in place. So the Community Board will be purchasing flags, maybe of a variety of different designs, and we're currently working with the manufacturer at the moment to look at possibilities of you know, a New Zealand flag, a Danish flag, a welcome to Dannevirke flag, you know, whatever. So we've put the ball in their court at the moment to come up with some good designs, because we want to rotate those flags as much as possible, because as you can probably see in Woodville, the flags are getting pretty worn because they're been up for so long. So yeah, at the moment we're pretty good. We've got plenty of sponsorship, and as you see with our RSA sponsored Anzac flags, which are looking pretty good, and they're very strong and they're very robust, so we want to maintain that. Thank you.
No, very, very good, and certainly there has been some great sponsorship. My arm's still feeling it from being twisted by Councillor Wallace coming to empty my wallet for one of the flags, so well done for that. Are there any other questions on these community board minutes? Councillor Wallace.
Just commenting on the flags, I think you'll find that most people in Dannevirke especially, and all different towns across our district, if there is somebody like, we had no problem in getting sponsorship for our flags. People love to get involved. So I think what you guys are focusing on is going to be great.
Very good. Thank you very much, Councillor Wallace. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Naylor.
Just a question on that. On the flags, do you have that the flags are sponsored by somebody, or is that part of the process? I'm just keen to understand a bit more for
Yes,
Woodville.
there are. We've had flags currently being sponsored, obviously by the RSA, True Honey, and the Dannevirke Pharmacy. Are three that come to mind straight away. Yeah, and then the names are there.
Yeah, and the names are on the flags themselves. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I will put the motion to receive. It's been moved and seconded. Is no further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for coming to the table to answer those questions, Nicola and Terry. We now move to the Positively Woodville minutes. Could I have someone move the Positively Woodville minutes? Moved by Councillor John, seconded by Councillor Naylor. Are there any questions on these minutes? Appears to be none. I'll put the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. We now move to page 36, which is the Explore Pahia Tour Community Committee minutes. Could I have someone move those minutes for me, please? Councillor Naylor, seconded by Councillor Johns. Any discussion or questions on these minutes? Appears to be none, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Now move to page 43, which is our decision action items. Are there any questions on the decision action items? Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the very first item on our action list, I'm a little concerned there is no due date against the disposal plans for rationalisation of. I appreciate that it's probably a work in progress, but it would be nice to have a deadline to which that process might have been completed.
Thank you very much for that, Deputy Mayor Wards. I had the same question, so I don't know if the Chief Executive would like to make a comment.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Noting that, and you're right, it is complex, and that creates part of the dynamic here, but I agree we do need to get some kind of due date in there, so the council's then got something to check in terms of our progress, so we'll take that away and make sure that we get something in there.
Thanks very much for that, Corin. Yeah, absolutely. There's also one in there on page 45, which is for the MWLAS services. So our request is that all action items have a date unless they are clearly parked for some reason, if we're waiting legislative change or something similar. Councillor Naylor.
So on page 44 with the Tararua District Plan Review Plan Stop, I see that progress notes have been approval updated by Minister. What are the next steps there? Because the decision was to do the stuff is still showing as in progress. I'm just trying to understand what the next steps are for that.
Thanks, Councillor Naylor. It's quite complex what the next steps are, so we will be receiving a full paper and full briefing with information from Amy on that. Effectively, we need to run it through the process that was stopped, so that will include public hearings, etc. So there is still a little bit to flow under the bridge on that one. Any other questions or comments? Could I please get someone to move the decision action items, or to have those noted? Councillor Amboy, seconded by Councillor Wallace. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 53, item 10.1, which is the recommendation from committee regarding the 2026 audit fee proposal, in the name of Ellie Dunn.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll take the report as read. The report is merely presenting a recommendation made by the Risk and Assurance Committee at their recent meeting for council approval.
Thank you very much for that, Ellie. Councillor Naylor.
So I was nitpicky on this from the last time we reviewed this, and I see that they've changed it from 3 years back to 1 year, but on page 57, the first line there, we estimate that the following hours we were required to carry out the audits as plural, should have been audit as singular, just being nitpicky, I know, but yeah, that made sense. And the other note that I had was that while there's an increase of fees and they now match the total increase in section 5.1, the disbursements also increase as well. So we just need to be aware of that.
Thanks very much, Councillor Naylor. No problem being nitpicky when it comes to the audit. That is the purpose of what we're looking at. So I think that's a very, very fair comment. Any other questions? I just want to make a very general comment. I wasn't able to make an audit and risk because the Chief Executive and I had to dive out due to some weather-related meetings. The comment I wanted to make is the fees are huge for local governments and for smaller councils. Our fee of 305,964 makes up a significant budget line for us as a council. My personal view is, and audits, by the way, are incredibly important. It's vital that our communities have confidence in our operation, but there has to be cheaper, more efficient and better ways of doing it. This is something I think we should be discussing and taking up with central government. If central government are serious about the rates burden being put on people, this is a great example of something that central government can help with. So I would like, in an unorthodox way, and Ellie's probably going to whack me in a second, to add a third recommendation. So we have recommendation 1.1 and 1.2. I'd like to add a recommendation of 1.3, that the Mayor writes to the Minister of Local Government expressing concern with the cost burden imposed on ratepayers through the audit requirements. So though 1.1 through to 1.3 has been moved by Councillor Johns. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Amboy, is there any discussion on that? Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, I absolutely fully support your your comment or motion. To me, there was a risk when we looked at this in the committee that they were saying that years 2 and 3 could go up significantly because of the change of structure. And so, but at the same time, we're also facing a time where auditing should be able to be done a lot more automated, should be able to be automated a lot more. And so therefore the cost should be coming down. So if you can just, when you do, I don't think it needs to be in the motion, but I just think that when you do your letter to the central government, that you point out that they need to think about how they can do it differently for us, because from what I understand, we don't have any other option but to use Audit New Zealand. So, yeah.
No, that is correct and noted, and I don't disagree with that at all, Councillor Naylor. Deputy Mayor Wards.
Thank you, Your Worship. I completely concur with the intent of the motion. I do have a question. Do we know whether or not under the proposed rates capping model, whether or not audit fees are included in that, or is it going to be outside that line?
I can potentially answer that without having seen the legislation, which hasn't been drafted. My only comment there is that there has been no suggestion that would sit outside the rates cap, and there's been no public comment suggestion or otherwise to my knowledge. But good question and fair. And I do think, and I'll come to Councillor Amboy in a moment, this is part of the reason why I raised this, if we move to being more constrained. I did just want to publicly say, though, that this is not a reflection on our auditors and the skill and the professionalism that our auditors provide. So this motion should not be taken in any way as an inference of dissatisfaction with our auditors. It is more around the process and the requirements that are legislatively set down. Councillor Amboy.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Just a quick one, and I fully support the letter getting sent out to the Minister. Just wondering, sorry, could you come back to me really? Oh, are we just going to carry on? Is there a potential for shared services around fees, audit fees, or is it just too complex? So that's what I have.
A fair one to ask. I think the workload, in a way, Audit New Zealand does operate as a bit of a shared service where they audit multiple councils and it goes through Audit New Zealand. I think any efficiency would be welcomed, but some of it actually would go down to the requirements that our auditors have to meet to meet legislation. I mean, it is a huge amount. When we move to being post-waters, as an example, obviously those fees potentially will change because it's not auditing as much, but we're looking at, it certainly has a rating impact either way. So I just thought I would, and we won't avoid the cost 100%, but I would like government to give some consideration to what they could do. Councillor Naylor.
Just one comment on Deputy Mayor Ward's comment about could this be rates excluded. I think even if it was, we would have a hard time trying to sell the public that we should be increasing the rates to 5% because 1% of it was audit. It would just become a nightmare to manage. So we're going to have to stick with, even if stuff's excluded, it's going to be really hard to communicate that.
I agree, but I also do think as a council we should be shouting from the rooftops what the costs are, and particularly costs that we as a council have no control nor influence over. Councillor Johns.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm surprised Councillor Naylor hasn't brought it up, being the AI aficionado on council, but one would imagine in something like an audit where there are comparisons that can be made with every other council, that AI could have a huge part to play and therefore a huge cost saving to the respective councils involved. It would be interesting to hear from Audit New Zealand how equipped they are to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. In Councillor Naylor's defence, I feel that was certainly some of the subtext of the comment which I've taken on board, but I appreciate you reinforcing it, and I fully agree. Okay, we have those three motions. We have a mover and a seconder. There's no further discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for the indulgence, councillors. I appreciate that. A copy of the letter will be included in, will be circulated to all councillors, but will also be included in correspondence in our next council agenda for transparency. We now move on to page 63, item 10.2, recommendation from committee regarding the Audit New Zealand letter, again in the name of the Manager of Democracy Services.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, I'll take this report as read. It's presenting the recommendation made by the Risk and Assurance Committee at their last meeting for council approval.
So we have a recommendation 1.1 and 1.2. Could I have someone move, or are there any questions before I do so? Could I have a mover for 1.1 and 1.2? Councillor Petty-Weber, seconded by Councillor Naylor. Is there any discussion? Appears to be none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to item 10.3, which is the Dannevirke Domain Deer Park. So I'd like to welcome up Fontaine Chase, our Facilities Manager, to the table.
Kia ora koutou. I'd like to introduce Pukinatai, who is our casual deer park manager, or casual worker down there. So Puki is looking forward to a resolution to what council would like to do down at the deer park, or with that area down there. So I'd like to take the report as read, and I'd also like to correct a typo on the condition assessment at 4.3.1. The calculations here, I've missed out a 9, so it should read 249. I'd also like to share with council that the team, along with members of the Dannevirke Community Board, after receiving a verbal notice from Puki about whether we should look to decommission the deer park or not. So we were looking at alternative ways on how we might be able to sustain the park, have another leasee come in, or another manager take over. The complexity of that, we were unable to come to any other arrangement, so hence the report to council now. So, yeah. Did you want to have anything else to say?
Oh, I'd like to say they look up the years for another couple of years, I think, I hope. But to me, it's going to cost us, because the fencings are getting too worn out. Bottom wires are getting rotten, and the deer are just hitting the bottom of the netting of the wires, and they'll get out. That's what I'm frightened to leave those deers without me there. I like to be there with them there. All I want to know from the youth what we're going to do with it before I make my decision to retire. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you very much and welcome, Puki. Thank you for all the work that you have done, and thank you for coming to sit at the table as we discuss this. I know you've spent a lot of time in that space, so absolutely the council does have a decision to make, and that's our intention today. So thank you for that. Are there any questions before we start off? Start with Councillor Naylor and then Councillor Amboy.
So I just noticed on section 5.4, the site rehabilitation. So if we were to go ahead with decommissioning the deer park and rehabilitating it, do we have a cost estimate for what that might be?
Sorry, 5.4. Oh, okay, sorry. I would expect that rather than investing in the capital expenditure that we would do in fencing, that we would be able to reduce that instead of having a $250,000 spend. We should be able to reduce that by just decommissioning, turn it back into green space, and tidy up what needs to be tidied up down there, which is a lot to do with the tree maintenance, pest plant management, restoring the lake, and just having a nice green space. So I would expect it to be a lot less than what it's projecting to maintain the deer park.
Councillor Amboy.
Thank you, Fantine, for this report, and thank you, Puki. I just want to acknowledge all the work that's been put in during your years looking after the park. I'm just curious to know if there is an opportunity for community-led management, partnerships or external funding for the development of the green space in future. I guess I'm just thinking long-term.
That would be encouraging, yes, that would be great. The initial expectation really is just to put it back to a green space and then have that consultation or engagement with the community to understand what else would they like to use that space for. The Dannevirke lower domain, once upon a time, was a really, really beautiful space that had a lot of different ages that would visit that park. Unfortunately, in the state that it's in, it's sort of changed a little bit, and it would be really lovely to be able to revitalise that. So we would like to encourage other community groups to lend a hand, and I think we will be able to do that, achieve that. Yep.
There's a lot of work to be done down there. You got the trees there, and you got the storm water running down there. It's very wet down there. It's a lot of work.
Councillor Johns.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Presumably, it would need to be grazed until such time as the community came up with a viable plan to do other than graze it. Could it be leased on a grazing contract for a period of time?
Mm-hmm. That was one of the options as part of the assessment there, is whether we could lease it out or not, and but probably not for. It does have its advantages and disadvantages. So if it was to be leased for a deer park, so that it's deer stock that's in there, we would still be required to maintain and upgrade the existing fencing.
And the water. You got water to feed the deer.
But it is one of the options there for council to consider.
Sorry, Councillor Johns, if you can speak through the chair.
A grazing option will be far less costly to council. I mean, it could create some income that covers the cost of water supply or initial fencing. But if it was grazed with sheep, for example, one would imagine that the fencing requirements are not quite so onerous, and or water.
That is a possibility. However, if we set up a lease agreement where we are changing, so currently the land classification for that parcel of land is recreation reserve. If we were to change that to a lease agreement, so it's more of a commercial agreement, where we're changing the activity itself, so we're changing the purpose, and therefore it will become rateable land.
If I can, I would say there's probably half a dozen recreation reserves in the district that are grazed, pending alternative use.
Thanks for that, Councillor Johns. Deputy Mayor Wards.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I'd be curious to understand further to Councillor Amboy's question. You've noted, Fontaine, in 6.1.2 that the Dannyvirk Community Board have obviously had some input but had no viable solutions as to what to do next. Is there an opportunity, Your Worship, for us, clearly we need to make a decision today as council as to what are we decommissioning, but I guess through you, Your Worship, I'm seeking input from members of our community board here today. Is this a project or an interest that they might have to work with the team into the future to come up with a solution?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Wards. What I'm keen to do is not to conflate two things, and I think that that's a very, very, very fair comment. There certainly is already some discussion about what may happen with the lower domain. This council does need to make a decision, and it goes to Councillor Johns' comments as well, needs to make a decision of whether we would decommission the deer park. That will also allow officers to come up with some other options that they can't come up with if the deer park hasn't been decommissioned. One thing that I will note is this was on the agenda for the last Dannyvirk Community Board, seeing as you mentioned that, and the Dannyvirk Community Board passed a resolution endorsing the decommissioning of the deer park. So from that community element, an elected community community board have certainly given that feedback to us as a council on what their preference is. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Scott. So just make sure I've got the right lens on. You mentioned, Fontaine, that we're looking at not changing the purpose of the land because that takes a whole different route, but we're looking at probably enhancing the actual lower domain boat park. That's going to we're not going to touch that at all like the old days when the Lions Club put all that work in there. We've got the canoes and all the rest of it. So just going forward, you're looking at, from what I gather, the deer go, the actual rate landing or the land is still parks and recreation, because that's a huge area, isn't it? I mean, it's beautiful down there, especially that lower other part. So how many hectares are we talking about with the deer, where the deer are? Yeah.
Excuse me, Fontaine, if you could use your microphone, please.
All right.
But it's irrelevant anyhow. It's just, well, it isn't,
Sorry,
it?
Councillor Wallace.
It's just
I
great.
passed over to Fontaine, so if we just stay talking through the chair, Fontaine was going to answer your question and then I'll come back to you.
1.84 hectares is the parcel of land that the deer park itself occupies. So the entire part of the lower domain is a bit larger than that.
Through the chair. So hopefully things happen the right way around. Thank you for the report.
Thank you for that. I did have a few comments passed through from Councillor Corlett, who unfortunately can't be here today. And I might send this through to you because there was some questions around the pricing as it was quoted. For example, the requirement for 3 metre fencing, where perhaps 2 metre fencing he believed might meet the standard. Some of the depreciation costs and getting a comfort level around the costs within that. Instead of going through that line by line, I might I'll pass that through to you so you can answer any of that for Councillor Corlett. Councillor Corlett did say, regardless of that, he was in support of the decommissioning. So, is there any other questions, Councillor Johns?
No, not a question. I was if we've finished the question, I was going to make the recommendation.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Johns. Did you have another question, Councillor Amboy?
Great, thanks, Ms. Scott. Just really quickly, and I might have missed this as well, but in the table provided in 4.3.1, it shows how much we would have to spend if we continue to fund the deer park. But I'm curious to know that once it is decommissioned, will any of the savings be reflected into the rehabilitation of the land or in rates relief? Thanks.
Yeah, hopefully both.
Thank you for that. That's a good question, Councillor Amboy, and I look forward to us, should we make that decision to proceed, of getting some information around that, because I think it'll be important for our communities. Is there any further questions at all? So we have recommendations 1.1 to 1.4. That has been... Councillor Johns indicated that he was happy to move that. Is that right, Councillor Johns? Do I have a seconder? Sorry? Oh, sorry.
1.2 or 1.3.
And could I just clarify, Councillor Johns, that you would be moving to decommission the deer park?
Correct, so 1.1, 1.13, 1.14.
Cool. 1.1, 1.3 and 1.4. Could I have a seconder for those, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wards? Is there any further discussion or debate? Councillor Amboy.
Just a quick comment that I fully support the decommissioning of the deer park if it reduces the cost, ongoing cost to ratepayers. But I also just want to add, during a conversation held in the Dannyvik Community Board, somebody suggested that we lock the bottom gates due to health and safety concerns. And while I think this comment is valid, I don't agree that we should do this, as the bottom domain adds value to the overall experience of the park, and the walking tracks seem to still get used. And also, just want to add, the new campground manager also looks like he's improving the facilities and surrounding areas. So, but that's all from me. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll just make a couple of quick comments. My understanding, having been at the community board meeting, and that was raised by, I believe, board member Wallace. I think there might be some confusion around that comment. That comment wasn't that the gates impeding current access, that there's any impeding of current access. It was more talking about the gates to the deer park. It was a comment along those lines. I don't think that there was any suggestion that the lower domain, as it currently stands, is gated off at all. And I'm just looking to the back and receiving some affirmation from the chair of the community board. So just to clarify that. Any further discussion or debate? I'll put the motion for 1.1, 1.3 and 1.4. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Fontaine Puki. Thank you very much for coming along and for all the work that you do and have done. We now move to item 10.4, which is proposed dog registration fees for the 26-27 financial year. So I'd like to welcome up Jim to the table. Good morning. This paper can basically be taken as read. It's a requirement under Section 37 of the Dog Control Act to have council set its dog control fees by resolution and publicly notify them in the district newspaper at least once in the preceding month before the fees are implemented. So that requires a paper to council earlier than the other normal fees and charges, which come along later. I would just point out in the paper, it does mention that the split and how we determine the fees is 80% user pays or dog owner fees and 20% contribution from the rates portion to reflect the public benefit. So even if you don't have a dog, you very well may have a barking dog next door and you want someone to turn up to do something about it, etc. So, but however, in the last year, we've actually operated 85%, 15% rates as a little bit of a, ease of burden on the ratepayer. So, yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much for that, Jim. Deputy Mayor Watts.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Jim, for this report. I very much appreciate that the adjustments have been reflected around an inflationary rather than any specific criteria other than that. This is always a very topical topic for our community, and I'm curious to understand, we often get compared to other councils when this adjustment is made. Through you, Chair, have you any sense of what's going on with our neighbours in terms of their proposed fees for the upcoming year? Thank you.
Through Your Worship, I haven't done a check for this year, but I did last year, and our fees last year were cheaper than 10 neighbouring councils. So we are a little bit behind the 8 ball, but I'm also conscious that our community, financially struggles, especially in times like this, and I like to keep the dog fees down as much as I can while still enabling us to be able to do our job correctly. So we probably will look at how we administer, especially the rural dog fees next year, because we may shift to a more user pays focus, depending on how council is, set the bar.
Thanks very much, Jim. A quick question. Based off these fees and the absolute most part, it's an inflation adjustment, is that correct?
Yeah, through Your Worship, that is correct. We've tried to keep it at the 2.6%. Some of the fees might be slightly higher and others are lower, but we've tried to keep it in round dollars just for administration purposes, so we don't issue with cents and things when people come to the counter.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? I'll make some comments in a second. Could I have a councillor to move the recommendations? Councillor Wallace, seconded by Councillor Johns. Just a quick comment on this. Thank you very much, Jim, for talking about the funding split. We will be having discussions today on our revenue and financing policy, which does speak to the public good side, so the rates funded versus the user pays funding. So if there is any sort of discussion and debate over where that should land, we will have a greater understanding of that following our workshop today. I did just want to take the opportunity to thank you, Jim, and your team. I see Jill sitting down the back. We are very well served by our animal control officers. They work incredibly hard, sometimes in very, very trying circumstances. So please pass on our thanks to your team for all the work that they do in that space.
Thank you, Your Worship, for those comments. I might just add, to help inform councillors for their deliberations later today, that the standard in the industry is that 20-80% split. It certainly was at the other councils that I've served at, and all the ones that I know of. But that is before rates capping came into being, so the whole field changes. But thank you anyway.
Great. Thank you very much, Jim. Is there any further debate or Councillor Petty-Weber? Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I just wanted to thank you, Jim, for the report, and I'm sure the public will be happy that we haven't put them up too much this year. I was just wondering if next time would we have the old prices in the paper, because I think it sort of shows that if you didn't know what the old prices were, it sort of shows in the paper that we haven't actually jumped them up too much.
Through your worship, just to answer that, the highest fee there is if you have a non-desexed dog, and the fee for that was $160 last year, and it's gone up $4. So that'll give you an idea, 2.6% of the higher rate, that's the highest fee jump, $4. Thank you, Jim. I think the request is still a good one for next year. If we are going to be approving any cost changes, it is really helpful for us to be able to compare. So thank you for raising that. Any further discussion or debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, Jim, and thanks to your team. We now move on to item 10.5, which is requests for information under the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, again in the name of the Manager of Democracy Services, Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take this report as read. It's presenting information about requests for information that we have responded to in the past month since our last report to Council.
Thank you very much, Ali. Are there any questions for Ali on this paper? I'm happy to move the recommendation that the report's received. Could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Naylor. Any debate or discussion? Councillor Naylor.
Just one comment that I'm disappointed to see we haven't had a Lugoima request for our strategic planning session yet. After seeing the news for the Horizons Regional Council on the paper several weeks ago, it'd be nice to see that one.
No, thank you very much, Councillor Naylor. I think the Taxpayers Union tip-off line could have a few things of strategic retreat and the lack of councillor lunches, which I still apologise for. Unfortunately, those Lugoimas have not come through. Any further conversation, discussion or debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Ali, thank you for all the work that you do on that important piece of transparency for our council. We now move into some of our portfolio reports, moving to item number 17, which is the Horizons Regional Council Passenger Transport Committee report, written by Councillor Naylor. Councillor Naylor, would you like to speak to your report?
So it was very interesting to go to that meeting, and there was a lot of talk about Whanganui and areas around Palmerston North, not much to do with Tararua at all. But there was quite a bit of debate and quite a lot of support from the wider committee around the fact that the regional transport connections, which was due to be in the annual plan this year for Horizons Regional Council, had been deferred. And the real risk that the regional transport connections may not make it into the next long-term plan for Horizons Regional Council. So it's just something we need to keep in the back of our brains and be aware of. And certainly I'll be pushing to make sure that that is still an item going forward into the long-term plan. And the second item there, the mobility transport option with NZTA, with Council's permission, I'd like to do a little bit more, or get somebody to help me with some investigation into whether there is an option for us to be able to access NZTA funding for our community around mobility transport if there was an operator that was capable of providing that service in the region. It's a long shot. I don't think it's probably realistic, but it could be one worth exploring.
Thanks, Councillor Naylor. Perhaps we'll take that offline and have a bit of a discussion there. Quite interested to learn a little bit more, so perhaps we could sit down and work out a strategy for that, but appreciate you bringing it forward. Is there
Are there any questions for Councillor Naylor on his report? Deputy Mayor Wards.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you to Councillor Naylor. It's nice to have this this depth of feedback. I'm curious to understand, and it's not part. I'm assuming it's not part of that mobility conversation, but the health shuttle is still included in. There's no discussion about taking that out of. Cool.
Yeah, just to answer you through you, Your Worship. The there was no discussion about the reduction of funding or anything else like that, or any removal of that at all. So it was indicated that there wasn't any. Terry had asked me about increase as well, but there's no chance of increase either. So, yeah.
No, thank you. And there are some very important funding pieces through Horizons, including Dannyville Community Car being another example, and the St John's Health Shuttle. I do know that our regional councillor is very, very passionate about those topics. And I certainly haven't heard anything to the contrary. Are there any further questions for Councillor Naylor? I just want to reiterate the Deputy Mayor's comments. It is very good to see a formal written report coming from that meeting, so very grateful. Would you like to move your report?
I'll move the report.
Could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Johns. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. We now move to page 111, which is item number 18, Portfolio Report for Communications and Engagement. This is in your name as well, Peter, or? And I'm happy for you if you'd like to speak to this as well, feel free. But Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, unfortunately, we weren't able to time the meeting to get Alison involved for this first meeting, but we, ultimately plan to do this on a monthly basis. Great support from the communications team on, so we can provide that feedback through to you, Corin. They're dead keen to look at how we can engage with the community at greater levels, and it's good to see the challenge that's gone out now, and the feedback the community's talking about it, the people I've talked to. It's really positive, so yeah, we just want to keep on working on that. So,
thank you. Is there any comments you'd like to make, Councillor Amboy, or has that been covered? Sure. Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Councillor Naylor, for the report. The budget challenge has been very well received within the community. Community board chairperson Nicola and I had the opportunity to go around the shops and deliver some flyers, and everyone seems to be really happy with it. And so, well done to the comms team, and watch this space. Thanks.
No, thank you very much for that. There's been very high levels of engagement already coming through, which is particularly interesting where we've had a weather event right there where it may have detracted from it. I would also like to add my public thanks to the communications team developing something innovative like that completely in-house to really start driving conversations in a different way. We often talk as a council about finding different ways to engage our community. Frankly, we're often unsuccessful. This is a real creative way of doing things in a different way. So please pass on, Mr. Chief Executive, our thanks to the team for all the work that they've done and they're doing. Councillor Naylor, would you like to move your report? I'm sure that will be seconded by Councillor Amboy. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. We now move on to item 19. This is the youth report in the name of Kishan. Kishan, I know that you're also up to you if you'd like to speak to your report or take it as read.
I've been saving up my voice for this. No, but it has been a very busy last couple of months for Alison and and I think we're really starting to see the fruits of our letters and our efforts to connect with youth groups, kura, and all those sorts of things. So, no, it's been really well received.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tawaka. Just a quick comment on this. I've been privileged to see some of the information coming through that you've been sharing with me, yourself and Councillor Amboy, as you're engaging with youth. It's no easy task, but you're certainly delivering and engaging into areas that we have not done successfully before. So I just want to commend you both for the work that you're doing in that space. Are there any questions for Councillor Tawaka or Councillor Amboy? Appears to be none. Councillor Tawaka, would you like to move your report?
Yes.
And that will be seconded by Councillor Amboy. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. We now move on to page 117. So this is the portfolio report for Marae, Kohanga Reo and Kura. Councillor Tawaka.
Yeah, I guess just something that I'd like to note about this specific portfolio is how distinctively different each of these communities are and how different every single marae hapu truly are and their needs, their aspirations. I don't think there's really been any that share the same needs to each other. So that's been very interesting for both myself and Councillor Weber to actually go and speak to these marae face to face and understand the individual needs of every hapu and community.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Tawaka. Are there any, Councillor Weber, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Yeah, then the needs are quite different in the different areas that, especially with the marae. And we've actually done another 2 marae since this report. We've been pretty busy. We've had some great feedback. I think Peter Sinclair and Sarah really paved the way for us. So they've really got those relationships in there. So that's when we go in, it's quite positive, and they speak very highly of Sarah and Peter's work that they've been doing in the civil defence area. So we're just sort of building on that relationship, and it's been really well received. So it's, it's been good. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Question from Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, so it's interested to hear that there's, quite a few different requirements from the different groups. And, at some stage you're going to be able to report back to us at a high level. Don't want to know all the details necessarily, but at a high level of, some of the groupings of what the issues are. It would be really helpful to understand, obviously there'll be some crossover between the different maraes and they'll have different priorities, but it'd be nice to see some data around it if that's at all possible.
Councillor Weber.
I can comment on a few things that sort of cross over. Signage is a big one. Marae signage isn't for safety, isn't that prevalent in our community. So that's shone through. Safety management and traffic safety during tangihanga is a lot of them don't have traffic safety plans. So that's come through with quite a few of the marae. What else can you think of, Kashan? Just trying to...
I'm thinking of some of the issues that Rākau Tātahi are facing, and they're quite different because they're kind of on the border of Central Hawke's Bay and us. So, just supporting them by connecting them with the right people is something that we've been doing there. Tamatu Tamaora, which is the Tararua College marae, one of the issues is flooding outside of their marae. So, those are the sorts of kōrero that we've been having.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Tawaka, would you like to move your report?
Yes, please.
And seconded by Councillor Petey Webber. Just for discussion, which we'll open up, I just want to also comment on this one and thank both Councillor Tuaka and Councillor Petey Webber for all the work that they're doing in this space. It does take a lot of time and a lot of travel, but it is absolutely worth it. Actually seeing our council systematically going out into spaces where perhaps as a council we haven't been at as often is really important if we're going to be a voice for all of our community. So I want to thank you both for all of the work and the effort that you're doing connecting with these really important parts of our community. So thank you. Any further discussion at all? No? Great. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. We now move to page 121, which is the mayoral update. We will have a quick discussion after this on Anzac Day, which will be reflected in our reports following. By the time these reports were generated, we had not covered that. Are there any questions on my report? I would like to move my report. Could I have someone second that, please? Councillor Amboy. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. I do just want to quickly talk about Anzac Day. As mentioned, we will have an opportunity to provide that next month in formal reports. But I wanted to, thank councillors for the attendance. The number of services that we attended was significant, with a number of councillors attending many. The turnouts that I saw were huge. Woodville, I had the privilege of being at the Woodville Dawn service, which had a great turnout. The Danny Burke Civic Service, which also had a great turnout, Norsewood and Anzac Bridge. These are really important civic occasions for us. And they seem to be even growing more in importance to our community. So I wanted to thank everyone for their participation. Does anyone have any comments that they wish to raise about Anzac Day? Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, I was blown away by the number of people at Pāhia Tour as well. I would estimate there was 400 people, and I think then I heard about 300 at Woodville Dawn. And then, big numbers everywhere else. And when you look at it as a percentage of our population compared to other areas, it obviously is very important to the community. So I was quite humbled by the number of people there. And I attended the Woodville Civic Service as well at 10 o'clock. And there was another, couple of hundred people there probably in total. And maybe not quite a couple of hundred, but 150 at least. And it's obviously really important, so just, much more important than I thought it would be. So, yeah.
Councillor Amboy.
So I had the privilege of attending 3 services with Councillor Irina. We went to Wimbledon, Weber and Pongaroa, and all of them were very well attended. The Wimbledon service was especially important and significant because their memorial turned 100 years old, and they also unveiled a new World War I plaque dedicated to the history of the memorial. So that was really special. But if there's anything else Councillor Irina would like to add to that, that was really fun. Thanks.
It was a fun morning, tiki touring around the Tararua. It was really good to hear about the history of that memorial for at Wimbledon. So those rocks that form the pyramid are from Cape Turnagain, and each side represented a different meaning. Yeah, so there was quite a bit of history, and it was really good to hear that, because we did try, Alison tried to look it up, but there wasn't a lot online about its history, so it was good to hear it, and yeah, it was a great ceremony.
No, thank you for that. And there was quite a good write-up in the Hawke's Bay Today, I think, which spoke to some of that history, which was great. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, as you know, we attended 7 odd parades, and it was -1. So I must admit, the people that turn up, it's great. I mean, it's 63 years I've been doing this, so it's and they get bigger and bigger, and we've been in all terrains while we're doing it too. So yeah, to all those people that attended, and to what our council does for them, great honour.
And for the incredible last post playing, Councillor Wallace. So hats off to you. Thank you all very much for that. We'll have a break in a moment, but before we do, I would like to move that we move into public excluded to cover the item mentioned before and confirmation of minutes. Moved by Councillor Naylor, seconded by Councillor Johns. Is there any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. And thank you all very much, councillors and staff, for your participation today. I will in a moment declare the meeting closed, but could I ask Councillor Pete Weber to close us with a karakia, please?
Kia tau te manaakitanga. Kia runga, kia tinei o tātou. Kia piki te ora. Kia piki te maramatanga. Kia hoki pai atu. Kia hoki pai mai. Tuturu whakamaua. Kia tina. Haumie hui tai kia. Settle the care and protection upon us. May the health and understanding grow. Return well to others and ourselves. Hold fast to your authenticity. Be firm, join together, gather together, bind us as one. Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting is closed.